Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host Elias Roush. This podcast sponsored by. Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host Elias Roush. This podcast sponsored by EliasRoushMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Today we are discussing M. Night Shyamalan's new Knock at the Cabin. Knock at the Cabin is a 2023 American psychological horror film. I'm leaving out some important details because I think that it could be a little bit spoilerific, which we'll talk in a little bit. It's written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, also with Steve Desmond and Michael Sherman on the initial screenplay draft. It's based on a 2018 novel, The Cabin at the End of the World, by Paul G. Tremblay. The first adaptation of one of the works of the films, which is one of his first adaptations. It stars Dave Bautista, Jonathan Groffman, Aldridge, Nikki Amook Beard, Kirsten Cui, Abby Quinn, and Rupert Grint. In the film, a family of three are vacationing at a remote cabin when some stuff happens. Let's kind of put a cap right there. I'm gonna be very firm with the spoilers on this one. Mostly because I walked into this only basically knowing the cast. I knew the direction of M. Night Shyamalan. He's funding his own movies these days. He's like, I'm putting my whole ass on the line for this movie. That's how much I believe in my movie. And so I do put a lot of praise at the fact that he's like, I'm willing to put my own money at risk for this film. And, people are going into it. Some people are like, yay, M. Night Shyamalan. Some people are like, M. Night Shyamalan. And some people are like, oh, hell no, M. Night Shyamalan. I'm more of the opinion of I really think he's an ambitious and creative mind. I think some of his films are transcendent, and then other ones just fall very flat. I can recognize some greatness, and then I can recognize some not so greatness. Now, where does this lie? We're about to talk about it. Knock at the Cabin premiered in New York City at the Rose Hall on January 30th, 2023, and was theatrically released in the United States on February 3rd, 2023 by Universal Pictures. The film received generally positive reviews from critics and has grossed $24 million worldwide. So we know the behind the scenes. Now let's kind of go in front of the scenes, or whatever you want to call it, in front of the screen. The running time is a comfortable 100 minutes. Thank God. I've been trying to catch up with all my Oscar buzz movies, all Best Picture possible win nominations and stuff like that. From Avatar at 3 hours and 15 minutes to fucking Triple R that was just under 3 hours, Blonde 2 hours and 45 minutes. I don't think that was nominated, but there was some stuff in it. But anyways, the movies are too fucking long these days. Nobody needs to sit here for 3 hours. I used to think that there could be some sort of comfortable cap at about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. If you don't need to be there for 2.5 hours, for 2 hours, don't. And I feel like this movie automatically gets an extra star for me, almost because it's not excessively long. I could see this movie being an extra 20 minutes, and I'd be like, this is too much to handle, chop it up. This has excellent pacing in it, in my opinion, for as kind of slow and precise that M. Night Shyamalan is keeping the camera moving. I also want to talk about the cinematographer as well. Jaron Blashink, I think. Blashik. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. He's not unfamiliar with that last name, but and Lowell A. Mayer. The camera work is impeccable. The pacing works, and that's mostly because it's not a fucking long ass movie. This movie works for me. I'm gonna go right into it. Positives and negatives. The reason I think the majority of this works, and I do think this is going to be kind of a divisive movie for some, I think most critics have the ability to say these performances and overall the direction is very good, but the ending does not stick the landing. I think it's very similar to like watching a dancer or an ice skater, and they're doing all of the moves and getting all the swan dances down, and they're doing all the dances and whatnot, and you're like, wow, this is an impressive feature. And then they get to the very final, um, I don't know, the little triple spin they got to do. The triple spin at the end of this movie feels rushed and a little bit inorganic and kind of feels like from another movie, but not to the extent where I'm like, don't watch it or anything like that. The thing about this movie is the performances. My goodness, Dave Bautista. I mean, everyone knows Jonathan Groff can act. We've seen him in everything from Hamilton to Mindhunter to Broadway to off Broadway. He's a phenomenal actor. When I saw him that he was going to be one of the main individuals in this, I was pumped for it. I was like, this dude knows what the fuck he's doing. Dave Bautista, we've seen him have 5 or 6 different gears. From everyone talks about the very short amount of time he's in Blade Runner 2049. He's just this slow, solemn, quiet, big, hulking brute of a man. And it's just the juxtaposition. He's kind of playing that role again. But I'm here for it. I want way more of Dave Bautista. He wants to act. He doesn't want to be the big action star that you would think that the man of this size could be. And he easily could be. He could be both. There's no reason I don't think he can be both, but I don't think he wants to be known as that guy. And I do think he is on his, he's close. I don't know exactly Dave Bautista's age, but I think he's closer to 50. So he's not going to be doing too many superhero. He's 54. So yeah, he's not going to be doing too many superhero big action feats in the next 15, 20 years. In my opinion, I think he's kind of on the back nine of that. He's already done all the Guardian stuff. So this dude wants to act. Like I said, Jonathan Groff. I've never seen Ben Aldridge in anything. He's he's in Fleabag, Our Girl Pennyworth, Long Call, Knock at the Cabin, spoiler alert. I haven't seen him in anything, but I was really impressed by his performance. Nikki Amuka Bird. We've seen her in Get Out, I believe, and she's phenomenal. Abby Quinn, she's kind of like this unhinged comedic actress that you're like, I don't know what this girl's about to do. And so she gives this very interesting performance, kind of on edge the entire time. Rupert Grint, haven't seen this guy in I don't remember the last time I saw this guy act. Maybe Harry Potter in the very last Harry Potter. I'm not really sure which one that was. The Deathly Hallows Part 2. So let me see. I don't think I've seen a single movie he's been in and since then. Yeah, I haven't. Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2, 2011. My goodness, it's been over 10 years since I've seen this guy in anything. I know he's doing some television with M. Night. I think it's called like The Servant or something like that. And yeah, let me continue real quick with the cinematographer, Jaron Blonsky, I believe his name is. It's the same guy, the same director that gave us the look and the cinematography of some of my favorite movies recently. My favorite director he works with, one of my favorite directors, the psychological horror director, Robert Eggers. This is the same cinematographer we got with him. So this is the same cinematographer that has worked with Eggers on The Vitch. He's worked on The Lighthouse, and he's also worked on number 4 of my list last year of top movies of the year, The Northman. The Northman is one of the most gorgeous movies I have seen what feels like in 3 or 4 years, just by how rugged and rich it looks. So when I saw the camera work in this, I was looking at it and I was very much here for it. I'm not too familiar with Lowell A. Mayer, but both of these individuals have put in some hard ass work for this look. And like I said, the original Jaron Blonsky was on the Northman's cinematography. I was just like, holy shit, this is phenomenal. I wonder if Lowell A. Mayer got the B roll or something like that, and Jaron did the main role. Anyways, a lot to say about Knock at the Cabin. I think generally most of the podcasts I've listened to were surprisingly like, this is not a bad movie. And I think that most people are going to say that. I do think the critical consensus for the audiences that are going to, the average audience is going to be like, it was fine. It was fine. They're not going to go in looking for, my gosh, Dave Bautista's performance, or my gosh, the direction, and oh my goodness, the cinematography. This movie feels like specifically that it would be aimed at critics. If it had a little bit tweaking of the end, I think it would almost be perfect for critics, because it's like it's a critical darling, with having M. Night having such a notable name. I listened to a really interesting podcast on The Sixth Sense by Paul Scheer, and his on his podcast. Not how did this get made, but I'm gonna give it to you. No, 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 no. Oh, come on now. It was the Paul Scheer Unspooled podcast. They had a very interesting podcast that was covering a little bit of the M. Night Shyamalan's The Sixth Sense, um, the biography of how that was made, and his upbringings, and the things that we learn on there are very interesting. Like, he really shot. He was like Sammy Sosa, pointing out in the stands, and he was like, "That's where it's going. It's going. It's going to be a fucking home run." Apparently, when he was in like high school, he had put himself. He had bought out a yearbook time, sorry, a yearbook page where you could put your own, your page and your face and all that. Apparently, he had put himself on like a Time magazine or something like that, and said like movie maker of the century or something like that. And he had called that shot back in uh high school. He was like 17, 18, which is very impressive to see that he only went on to continue on and make some very notable pieces of art. And so Knock at the Cabin is up there with some of his best work, I believe. And so it's I don't think it's quite as quotable as his other stuff, but I do think it's going to be remembered as some of the most important pieces of Shyamalan's work. Let's continue on to the plot. Here are the spoilers for Knock at the Cabin. And of course, as always, you can get the entire podcast on the patreon.com/LuckyDog podcast. You'll get the entire full review. This is going to be a condensed review if you're watching on SoundCloud or YouTube or any other platform. We appreciate everyone that is going to opt out, go watch the movie, and then come back. I'm giving you a little bit of time to pause, and then we can come back and you can listen to the plot of the film. If you don't want to go see the plot, or sorry, if you don't want to go see the movie, we are about to cover the plot here in a minute. Let me get a little bit of coffee, and we will get this thing on the road, on the show, on the road, on the show, the road show. All right. Have some coffee. Okay, so here is the plot for Knock at the Cabin. 7-year-old Wynn is vacationing with her parents, Eric and Andrew, at the remote cabin in rural Pennsylvania. While staying, Wynn is approached by a stranger named Leonard. Initially, he explains that he needs Wynn and her parents' help to save the world. However, while Wynn and Leonard spend time catching grasshoppers together, the big metaphor, she becomes suspicious when 3 other people appear with makeshift weapons. Wynn flees to warn Eric and Andrew up. Sorry, flees to warn Eric and Andrew, her fathers. But the visitors break into the cabin and tie them up, with Eric sustaining a concussion, which plays into the rest of the movie. The beginning of this is kind of slow and a little bit menacing, but not too much to the point where you're like, where is this going? It's essentially a home invasion of a gay couple. And I was like, oh, Lord, this is going to be a little problematic. Here come the pitchforks. Literally, here come the pitchforks. And you're seeing these close-ups of, sorry, I'm looking down. I'm just kind of visualizing it, of Win, and which I believe her name is Kristen Q. Uh, it she the young actress in this is phenomenal. She plays the hell out of this role. I could see several times where they're like, "All right, we don't want the kid in the room while we're doing all this," or they were shooting it where they didn't actually have to have the kid in the room or looking at stuff or yelling "f this, f that." Um, but she's phenomenal. I think she holds her own against Dave Bautista, who's excellent actor, Jonathan Groff, excellent. All these individuals are phenomenal actors, and yeah, even Nikki Amuka Bird. There's just scenes where no, there is no small parts. It's kind of, let's just say that. And so the way that they are framing Dave Bautista and Kirsten Q, their faces are just kind of like the only thing you're seeing while they're talking to each other. So there's this very intimate, connection between them where they're connecting and like just with nature and stuff like that. It feels almost like spiritual a little bit. And so this is just the first couple minutes, and I'm like, this is very interesting how to open up what I thought was going to be a home invasion film, and which eventually becomes, and it's very scary. One thing I do like about this movie is that they keep addressing the things that I was thinking. I was like, are they? In my mind, I was like, okay, so they're attacking them because they're targeting a gay couple, and they actually bring that up several times. They're like, you're targeting us because of our sexuality. You're targeting us because of this, targeting us because of that. And I was actually surprised that the movie was smart enough to address that these are the things that the audience is thinking right now. And so it feels very lived in with the time of saying, you know, you don't have to do this. You don't have to be homophobic. You don't have to be doing this, and you don't have to uh, break in our home because we're a gay couple. And they're like, we're not doing it because you're gay. We were doing this because of these visions. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm here for them at least trying to conversate with the people that are, literally going off the deep end and tying them up and doing all this. And they keep saying, oh, okay. They basically break in and say, we have to make a decision of one of you two guys has to kill the other one for the world not to end. And you're like, wait, what? Why? And you're thinking the same thing they're thinking. You got one of them that's the rational guy, which I think is played by Ben Aldridge. Um, he's like the rational thinker, and then you have Jonathan Groff, who's suffering from the contusion on the head, and he's like, oh shit, I'm having fucking visions now, man. And there's a lot of pieces of the movie that make it feel like, oh well, that's the explanation. He's not having visions, he's having a concussion. He's hearing things, he's seeing things because he just had a concussion. And they address it in the movie. So I really like how this movie's brings up a problem, or they'll say this is the problem, but then they'll go to the extent of explaining it. And I feel like that's kind of where the movie does drop off for me a little bit, because there are a lot of parts of it that they explain very well. Other parts they're like, and the plague's done, and the tsunamis are over, and world peace is achieved. It's a little bit spoilers at the end, but like that's what it kind of feels like at the end. It was like, wait, you had such great explanation of why you're not doing this or why you are doing that, and then the explanation for the overarching thing at the end is like, so that's kind of where it lost me at the end. So I also forgot to give my rating. It was a 7 out of 10 for everyone that was wondering. Let's hop into the rest of it. Leonard and his companions, and what guy named Leonard is doing all this, looking that big, that with these glasses and just like tight ass shirt, can't fucking move, just got this look. Named Leonard. Shout out to the Leonards out there. Leonard and his companions Sabrina, Adrienne, and Redmond claim that they have never met the family before this day and have no intention of harming the family, although they fucking scare the shit out of them, tackle them, tie them up, do all this shit, tell them they got to kill each other, whatever. You know, the reg. However, in the past week, they have been driven by visions and an unknown force to find the family. So they've gotten all these visions within the last fucking week. That's crazy. And while they're all tied up, all of this is like a bottle film. Everything's taking place in basically one location, kind of like a Broadway play, aka something similar to what Jonathan Groff has been in, Hamilton style. It felt very theatrical and play-like, where we're just like stuck in one location and everybody's kind of explaining who they are. You know, we got Rupert Grint. Hi, my name's Rupert Grint. I was in Harry Potter and I was in one of these, flashbacks, and then each one of these individuals, I think Abby Quinn, I forgot her name. Is it her name? Sabrina, maybe? Sabrina, Adriana, they are explaining, yeah, I have a kid. Yeah, I'm a nurse. Yeah, I'm this. Yeah, I'm that. And it was a little bit like, okay, so we're understanding these individuals as real people. These aren't just quote unquote cult members that are doing this out of the worst aspects of their heart. They have some sort of humanity to them, I guess, but not enough that they're willing to let anyone go. So they constantly through this movie are like, well, y'all are, like I said, the rationale and explanations to this movie are the reasons why I think it actually works. Mostly because of, they're like, oh, you're suffering from like delusions, you're suffering from visions, you're suffering from all of this. You said all of y'all had like this message board and maybe you had this like placebo effect where all of y'all kind of incepted each other's minds and you're all seeing the same thing. And they're like, no, that couldn't have happened. So, like I said, I like the rationale of them trying to explain this to the quote unquote cult, that this is, you're all crazy and we are here to, we can all talk about this. We don't, nothing bad, violent has to happen after this. And by the way, Rupert Grint's fucking face is fucked up. He's like beat to hell out of, because he is the one that's implementing that we got to get inside. We got to bust these doors down. We got to get in there. And that's where I think Ben Aldridge just beats the living shit out of him. Not knowing that they've had a connection earlier before. Like there's kind of like this quote unquote gay bashing in the club, which Rupert Grint was in, and he's like, hey, y'all need to stop talking. And he's like, Ben Aldridge is like, you talking to us? And, apparently the Rupert Grint comes to the back of the head with a bottle, like, knocked damn Ben Aldridge out. Kind of fucked up. And so we talk about that a little bit later, but essentially there might have been some sort of history between Rupert Grint's character, Redmond, I believe, and the two men, but it almost seemed like it didn't really feed into anything. They were like, they find, basically, I'm kind of jumping around. Ben finds out that it was Rupert Grint, that he was the guy that hit him in the head in the club or the bar. And so what does that mean? I don't know. That was kind of the whole thing, is like at the very end, he does find a whole box full of shit. They're like, oh, there's so-and-so's son on the phone. Oh, there's Redmond's license plate, driver's license. Oh, there's Dave Bautista's basketball coaching he was doing, a photo of it. It was just like evidence that these were all real people, and it felt a little bit heavy-handed. But I was like, what does that all mean? That they were all telling the truth, I guess? Except for the fact that one of them did know. So they weren't really telling the truth. I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know exactly how to, I just laying it all out there. So, they're seeing visions. They're hearing voices. They know something terrible is going to happen. The group foresees an impending apocalypse in which Leonard claims oceans will rise, a pandemic will spread, the sky will fall, the darkness will envelop the earth. When I hear that, it seemed like a lot of explanation that I was like, how are we supposed to believe this? Where is the rationale with all of this rationale that we've gotten in this movie? How are we going to prove this? And so the way of proving things is the M Night way. You got to turn on the TV. And so the way of them proving the TV and all of that was kind of funny. I mean, it starts off with like M Night trying to sell some like air fried chicken, like extra crispy, and then it turns into like, all right, we got a tsunami. It's fucking huge. It's a 10 foot. It's a 12 foot. It's a 30 foot. A 50 foot wave. It's like and we're kind of getting it from the perspective of like someone that's like at the Bahamas or something like that, or on an island. They're just kind of like looking around, and they got the phone out and they just see this wave, and you're like, oh my god. And then like the news people, the funniest thing about the news people, I don't know if they wanted this effect or what, but the water comes in and just blows fucking everybody away. And I don't know why I'm laughing right now, but it was just tickled me because the camera people just keep the camera rolling. Um, the news station is just like showing the wave, the title, the tsunami wave hitting everybody, and just like bloop, it's like all of a sudden the water covers the camera, and it's not like it cuts. Normally, when something impacts the camera, it like would cut. It's like, psh, and it's like, all right, we don't have any more feed. Nope, it's still going, and it feels like we're underwater for at least like 10 seconds. Like, no fucking news outlet would ever keep that on on the fucking. I don't know. Maybe they would. Maybe when our phones can witness a 50-foot wave like that, we were like, we got to keep this shit rolling. I was like, oh my god. So, yeah, I don't know why I thought that was funny, but every time the way that they were showing, oh, we got a pandemic, they changed the channel. They're like, oh my gosh, the pandemic's coming, and then they're like, oh my goodness, the waves are coming. Oh my goodness, there's earthquakes coming. Oh my goodness, something's causing these airplanes to fall out of the sky, and I gotta say that the reveal of all this was just kind of hilarious. It was all of them watching it on TV, and I don't know if there. I don't have an easy way to say how could you prove this off the top of your head, but because several times they're like, maybe you just recorded that, or that's special effects or something. Like the two husbands are like, that easily could be faked. And Dave Bautista's, he's like, nah, it's real, man. And they're like, oh shit, like there's no like questioning of it. And that was kind of my biggest gripe is like the pandemic starts and ends in like 5 hours, and then you got airplanes falling from the sky, and I was like, this is getting a little bit out of hand, but I don't know why it's making me laugh. I really don't. I guess that's the ridiculousness of it is what it is. But yes. Anyways, it's the news that tells us everything. The only way to prevent is for the family to sacrifice one of their own. So that's the correlation. It's like, okay, so all this is happening, but on the other side, it's like, well, what does that have to do with these two men? What is killing one of them going to have to do with anything? And so my whole thing was like, they were like, we don't give a fuck the whole time. They're like, we don't give a fuck. They'll let the world burn. And I was kind of like, yeah, fuck it. Um, and they were trying to like place blame on the two men, like it was their fault. And I'm pretty sure like Leonard Batista's character is just like, you've been chosen because you have the greatest will of all, or something, like the strongest will. He didn't really have like a great answer in my opinion. And so I was like, what makes this specific family, what is the reason why are they chosen? And I don't feel like there's really a good reason. The reasonings why the things are happening and the reasoning why they're chosen are the weak points of the movie, in my opinion, because it's just like a lot of it we're shown, and then we're told, and I'm like, this is, I don't know what to think about it. It's a lot to handle. But with saying that, all the performances, all the direction, all the look and the texture of the film, I think the storytelling is really well. Even the flashbacks of kind of making us endeared to the couple, them having to go through the trouble of acting like they were not a gay couple to get their daughter, which I can relate to on a from an adoption level, not like my I don't have two dads or anything like that. I'm just saying that from an adoption level, let anybody in any sort of any adoption that if they need to be adopted and it's a safe and healthy household, that you shouldn't be judged by that. And I thought this movie kind of showing that just real quickly was kind of important, that it's not easy for um, many same-sex couples to be involved in the adoption process. As a matter of fact, I didn't even have an idea that the adoption process was so expensive and time-consuming. I think that should be changed a lot. Um, but that's for a whole nother conversation. Anyways, the flashbacks I thought were really good. We don't have a lot of time with these characters, although the time that we spend with them, we're singing in the car, my blue suede shoes, and then we have them getting their daughter. There's just a lot of great storytelling, in my opinion, that works there. I heard some complaints about some of the writing, and I think the writing comes from the explanation. The bad writing, quote unquote, comes from the explanation of why these things are happening, and that's getting ready to come up here in a minute. And so, continuing on, the only way to prevent this is for the family to sacrifice one of their own if they are warned that they are warned that although they will survive the apocalypse, if they do not make a choice, they will be the last people alive. Like I'd freak the fuck out. Like I'm sorry. That's why I don't own these types of things. Because if they come in, I'm blasting. I'm Yosemite Sam this shit. I'm blasting first, asking questions later, and that's how it's going down. If I have my Asian adopted daughter on my shoulder, I'm going fucking blam, blam, blam. Like I'm not playing around with this shit. We going down. It's going down. Like I was like, dude, the fact that he didn't shoot everybody, big ass Dave Bautista's ass like 20 times, I would have been. Let me tell you that I wouldn't play. I would not play. And I think this is going to make everybody at every cabin go loaded or have a fucking machete on them at all times. Every time I go to the woods like that, I don't know if it's a fucking bear or I don't know if it's going to be a goddamn Dave Bautista in the woods. You got to be ready for that shit. Yeah. So fucking wild. Let me see. He finds Redmond's wallet and proves to Leonard that he was Roy, injured from his attack, and with their tires slashed. Oh yeah, and while Eric is getting the gun, Sabrina's like, I don't want to have to do this, but here's a machete in the fucking and she's like stabbing him multiple times in like the side of uh the ribs while he's trying to get the gun loaded in the car. And I was like, dude, I swear to God, bam, trying to play with me. Oh God, it gets me all worked up. I was just like, she's like, I don't really want to do this. I was like, bitch, you don't have to do this. I was like, come on now. Oh, but anyways, I was getting kind of worked up at that point. I was like, come on, man. One thing I did think was kind of important was showing, even though I was like, it's kind of uncomfortable to watch, the quote unquote gay homophobic breaking in, bashing of them. I did enjoy the action pieces of these two husbands in a horror action movie, or not an action movie, but kind of going through the motions of just being in a standard horror film, but they just happen to be two husbands instead of like a husband and a wife. And I thought that was kind of a different take. We don't normally get to see that. Normally it's very stereotypical or something like that. The gay couple stereotype. I think that we've seen it in a couple of horror films where they'll make them extra flamboyant, like, oh my god, the kind of stuff like that. Like these guys were like, you fuck with me, you come into my house, you're gonna get some. I don't give a shit. Straight, gay, bi, LGBTQ, you about to get all this shit. I got weapons for days. They were like ready, and I was like, that's what I'm talking about. I enjoy seeing obviously different sexualities on screen, but it's not about their sexuality. It's about them fucking, holding down the house, holding down the fort. I was like, this is kind of cool. So, I thought that was a win in Shyamalan's corner. I know that he can be a little bit, not everyone agrees with Shyamalan, but with saying that, I thought this was kind of oddly progressive way to approach this genre. So, after Andrew and Eric lock Leonard in the bathroom, Sabrina breaks back in the house. I knew she was going to come back, and she is shot fatally by Andrew. And I kind of felt like that was going to happen because Leonard's like, "It's time for the next kill," and he's like, "Eh," and then like the bullet goes, "Shoo," and Sabrina's like, "Wait, what?" and fucking shoots her immediately. I know you'd feel bad at me, like kind of initially, but I'd be like, these people just had us fucking kidnapped and are asking to kill ourselves. Like, fuck you. Like, I wouldn't feel that bad. Like, I'm be more concerned about like saving the family. And I'll go phrase Vin Diesel hashtag family on these people. Um, so let me see. Breaks in the house. Shally found by Andrew. Leonard tricks Andrew into coming into the bathroom by making him think he's escaped the window. So this is pretty smart. Like he breaks the window and Leonard's stuck in the bathroom on the second floor, and he's like, "Oh shit!" Did they lock the door? And they're like, "Oh shit! Did that big ass motherfucker just jump out of the fucking window?" And they're like, "Oh shit!" And so they kind of go in and they're like looking, and then you're like, "Oh fuck, the shower," some straight Hitchcock shit, and he blasts into the shower. You don't hear anything, you don't see anything. You're like, and you're like, that may or may not. You didn't hear a thud, so it's like, So he gets rid of the shower curtain, and fucking big ass Dave Bautista coming after you. Oh my god, dude! If you got a Rogue Batista, oh dude, oh hell no, you are done. You are done, son. So you gotta blast that big ass dude like about 15 times before anything goes down. And so he's like, you got the biggest motherfucker on you. Hold on, let me figure out how tall this mug is. Okay, so I just looked up. That mug is 6'3", and he's every bit of probably 250. Holy halibut. That's a big dude. So, anyways, um, he overpowers him and steals the gun. Of course, you do not want to give a Dave Batista a gun. Oh, jeez. I think honestly, Dave Batista is scarier without a gun. He can do immensely more damage without a gun than he can do with a gun. Leonard sacrifices Sabrina. Oh, I already said that. So wait. Okay, so Leonard sacrifices Sabrina, and the broadcast shows the spontaneous plane crashes occurring around the world. Realizing their time is nearly over, Leonard finds the three. Leonard leads the three to the back deck, kind of where the movie began. As the sky darkens, Leonard informs them after his death that they will only have a few minutes to make a decision before slashing his own throat. I kind of wish that they weren't. When all this is going down at the end, it's like ultimately Batista, they were all telling the truth. They were all having visions. The world actually is some sort of ending in this world. If they were just able to talk to them more, I don't know, maybe rework the middle half of this movie to kind of let them be on the same side and then maybe have a struggle. I don't know what the deal is, but Batista does not want to kill them. He could have killed them easily. They all could have killed them easily with the weapons that they ended up using on themselves. It feels like there could have been something could have been worked out a little bit more between everybody that was involved. So Da, da, da. Upon his death, lightning causes fires and more planes to crash. Eric now believes that the events are real and that the intruders represent the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Which, where the fuck did you get that? If like that, as I don't know, if as someone that grew up half to moderately to mostly Jewish, I didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, is this some sort of figure? Okay, so the four horsemen are figures of the Christian scriptures, first appearing in the book of Revelations, a piece of apocalypse literature written by John of Patmos. So I've kind of heard of them, but I had like zero idea where he had gotten this. I wanted a little bit more dropped in each of these individuals, or if like Jonathan Groff was some sort of like, if we had known that he had worked in the church or something like that, or if he had maybe exiled from the church or had read some scripture, if we had anything laid out that had said, this is what was going to happen in this movie, this would make way more sense to me. Um, Jonathan Groff's like, holy shit, they're the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Like, just automatically knows exactly what's happening, knows what to do. He's like, this is what's going. It's like, what? Really? All right. So, and Jonathan Groff is in real life, I believe, is gay. So I'm curious how he in real life was responding to this, because the traditional Christian ideals and traditionally being gay is not exactly a merging, a straight merge right there. So I'm curious if Jonathan Groff, the actor, had anything to say about, possibly not being like, this doesn't really make much sense from like the two characters understanding that. Like, I don't know. I had a lot of questions. I just thought the four horsemen of the apocalypse was such a specific answer that I had no idea how they came to the conclusion. Besides, shit was going wrong. Not wanting Wynn to grow up in a destroyed world, Eric offers himself as the sacrifice. And now there's like one or two scenes, I think there's like one or two scenes of like the back of Batista's head. And so at the very beginning, they're like, the camera's like shifting to the left side and it shows like Eric over here. And they're like, you're going to have to kill your spouse, or you're going to have to die, or something like that. And then it comes over and he's like, Eric's like, fuck you. And then the camera shifts over here behind Batista's head again, I guess. And then it looks over here, looks at Jonathan Groff. He's like, you're going to have to basically, he says the same thing. You're going to have to kill yourself. You cannot kill yourself, but you're going to have to either decide that you're going to die or whatever. And Jonathan Groff is kind of like, sure, it's definitely not going to be me. Wink. I knew off the first cuff when he had said that. I was like, bro, Goff, after he had gotten his head bashed in with falling on his ass, got the concussion, and then showing him like his head's just down like that, I'm like, holy fuck. From like about 20 minutes in, I was like, Jonathan Groff's going to be the one to go. And he was the emotional center. I think that's kind of the important part, is he was the emotional center. So let's see what we got. Eric offers himself. He reveals that Redmond's sacrifice, he saw a vision of Andrew and an adult Wynn, which this was what got me. It took me a second to understand that this was what was going on. But the vision, oh my goodness, it was a grown Wynn, gorgeous, beautiful. And then we have Andrew. He's, grown up, looks great, got the Joel beard. And I was like, oh shit, that's like really, really harrowing imagery to see. And then he's, they're not together, kind of thing. And it kind of got me a little choked up. I was like, if they had a little bit more of a connection of what this horseman thing would have been, or if maybe had more to do with them as a couple, I think it could have worked a little bit better. But I was really feeling it. I was like, ooh, this is some emotion I haven't felt from Shyamalan in a minute, because I definitely didn't feel this watching Old. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Eric feels that their family was chosen to make the sacrifice because their love was pure. Reluctantly, Andrew shoots and kills Eric before lightning strikes, setting the cabin on fire. I think I've been saying the names wrong, but anyways, I knew which one was going to die. The one that died, I knew was going to die the whole time. Andrew and Wynn find the visitor's truck and belongings that corroborated their stories. And it's like, this is a little bit heavy handed, but okay. They drive to a crowded diner nearby where they watch news reports confirming that the disasters have subsided. Returning to the truck, it's like, how do y'all know that the pandemic's done already? Whatever. And the clouds, I guess, are going, dispersing back. It's like, okay. Returning to the truck, the radio turns on and plays Boogie Shoes by Casey and the Sunshine Band. The song Eric had played for them on their drive to the cabin. And that, my friends, is Knock at the Cabin. Let me know what you thought about M. Night's past movies, this new film. Let me know what you thought about the review. Kind of looking at some other critical things that we're looking at. Let me see. Rotten Tomatoes, 68%. Sounds about right. 6.3 out of 10 on, I believe, on IMDb. And that sounds about right for everything, Although, let's see, the site's critical consensus reads, although it's often less than scary of the parts of story. Sorry. Although it's often less than scary and the parts of the story don't bear scrutiny, Knock at the Cabin is a thought-provoking chiller and upper-tier Shyamalan. And I think I mostly agree. Performances, like I say, are still they're great. They're great. Everyone does. There are no weak parts. But yeah, let me know what you thought about Knock at the Cabin. This was about a 7 out of 10 for me. And again, we've been covering The Last of Us on the HBO Max streaming service. Be sure to check out the review on that. We got it on LuckyDogPodcast.com, Patreon.com/LuckyDogPodcast. You got all of the full library review on there. You can help support us out. $1, $2, $3. Everything helps. Keeps the lights on, keeps us active and going. And the comments, the likes, the subscriptions, we know we try to respond to all of those and when we see them, and we appreciate all of them. Yeah, that's about it. Let me know what you thought about the review, and take it easy. Take it easy. Choose a video right here or right here. So many options. Take it easy.